Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 6 of Gives You Wings, the review series for each and every Red Bull prototype of the X1 series that's featured on Gran Turismo 6. And in this episode we're featuring the second to last version that we've currently got available on the game, the X2014, and this is the X2014 Standard. This is the non-fan version of the X2014 major models, not including the Junior, and apart from the Junior, this is the only Red Bull X1 not to feature the ground effect fan system, which gives it some unique characteristics, and it's also presented as being a pretty different vehicle to the other Red Bull X1s. It's still designed quite clearly to be a form of the ultimate racing car, but in an entirely different way to most of the other X1s. Most of the X1s are very much like the Tomahawk. They're just designed to be the ultimate, most extreme, most unstoppable racing car, whereas this version, the Standard, actually approaches that mythos in a different way. It approaches being the ultimate racing car from a much more realistic and grounded view of what driving said vehicle could actually feel like. Now, the Standard is no way near as fast as any of the other fan-assisted X1s. It is, of course, faster than the Junior, but it's not as fast as any of the fan-assisted versions from the X2010 all the way up to the X2014. That said, it's certainly not a slow car. It's powered by a turbocharged 2-litre engine. It weighs 560 kilos, which is slightly more, around 15 kilos more than most of the other Red Bulls. But it still sits at a very high PP of 926, despite having far less power and torque than any of the other major Red Bulls, with the exception of the Junior. This car puts out 839 horsepower and only 294 pound-feet of torque, which is no way near the spec of any of the other X1s. But what it does with that spec is very impressive, because if you compare this to, for instance, the X2014 fan car, which we'll be reviewing in the final episode of the series next week, that car has over 1,250 horsepower compared to this car's 839. And yet, it's not all that much quicker. Yes, it is quicker, but the main difference in performance is acceleration. The top speed difference between the Standard and the fan car actually is no way near as different as you'd expect. You would assume, based on the fact that the fan car can do around 320, that this car, given it doesn't have a fan system and also significantly less power, would probably be maybe the 290 region at best, maybe even 300. But it actually does around 310, which isn't that far behind the fan car at all, especially considering how much less power it has, around 400 horsepower less. That's pretty impressive. Now, of course, in a straight line, it's still going to lose out to any of the fan-assisted Red Bulls because it's just not as quick. But one of the reasons why this is an interesting alternative to the fan-assisted models is actually the main reason why I like this version more than most of the other Red Bulls. This is definitely my personal favourite version of the X2014. Not necessarily my favourite Red Bull overall, but one of my favourites. Certainly one of my preferred models of the series. And the reason for that is because of the way it drives. Not having the fan system, having less power to deal with, having slightly more weight, and a variety of other factors all add up to this car actually feeling and driving in a much more realistic way to any of the other Red Bulls apart from perhaps the Junior. Whereas most of the Red Bulls, like the Tomahawk, feel ridiculous to drive, theoretically possible, but in real life just not physically possible to have a car that fast while still remaining drivable, you'd just kill yourself within half a lap, if that. This car actually feels attainable. It has handling that you can actually believe. It has driving characteristics which you can think, yeah, I can imagine a racing car could actually do that. Now, that said, its spec is of course beyond any real-life car of a similar spec, given that this car's running pretty much the same kind of overall tech specs as a Formula 1 car. And of course a Formula 1 car cannot do 310. Now, part of that is explained away with the advanced aerodynamics, but let's face it, this car would be nowhere near that fast in real life. But compared to all of the other Red Bulls, this car is far more realistic, it feels far more grounded in reality and in real driving physics than any of the others. The others just feel like the game's been sped up, almost like using a cheat code, whereas this car actually feels and drives like a Formula car should and would. And I like that. It makes the car feel much more characterful to drive. It makes you feel like you're actually needed as a driver, not like the machine is just doing all the work and you can drive like an absolute imbecile and still win the race, which is what many noob drivers seem to think about the Red Bulls and the Tomahawks. This car, that is not the case. If a noob gets into this car, he isn't going to win, not even in a straight line, because you have to know how to tune the car, you have to know how to drive the car. It doesn't do the work for you, and I like that. Plus then there's the small fact that it costs half the price of any of the fan-assisted models. So, overall, if you're looking for a truly unique Red Bull, which incidentally you can win in career mode, so technically it's free, then this is a great one to go for. So, that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.